Hello everyone and welcome to our first workshop for our Wellbeing Advocates, and the theme of this workshop is resilience. Now, by the end of this session, I hope that you will be able to explain what resilience is and what it is not, and be able to give some examples of ways that a friend can build their resilience throughout a day and in different situations. Now, if we were in school, I would be giving each of you a little piece of plasticine or Play-Doh, and I would be asking each of you to build your own little miniature house. And I would give you a little bit of time to do that. And once you had all made your plasticine or Play-Doh house, we would have a little look at each individual piece. And we would notice that even though everybody had been given the same piece of Play-Doh, that each one of us would have created a very different outcome. And resilience is very much like this. Depending on who we are, or the way that we have been brought up, or the way that we have developed, we all develop resilience in different ways. And many of you may think, why do we use plasticine or Play-Doh, and how does this link to resilience? And when we think about Play-Doh or plasticine, we think about its properties. It's malleable, it's adaptable, it can recover its shape, it can rebuild, and it develops and changes over time. I want to ask you, when do we show resilience? Can you think of any times in your life that you have had to be a resilient person? Perhaps it was your first day of primary school, or perhaps it was your first day of secondary school. Maybe it was during an exam, or maybe you've had to show resilience during lockdown. When we think about it, resilience can often develop and change over time. And perhaps we are a little bit more resilient now at the age that we are compared to perhaps when we were a little bit younger. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a little scenario, and we're going to think about Eve in this first situation. Eve is late for school by 2 minutes because she slept through her alarm and missed the bus. She rushed into school. She knows she needs to complete her homework before period 4, so she spends most of her lunchtime in the library and only spends 10 minutes talking with friends. When she gets home, her little brother winds her up and she loses her cool and snaps at him. She decides to take a bath to feel better. So when we think about this situation, we think about how Eve has shown resilience. She has shown resilience by not just turning around and deciding not to bother going to school. She also showed great resilience by actually going and completing her homework and choosing to do that rather than getting into trouble, even though it meant she didn't really get to spend time to spend with her friends. And really, she showed great resilience by going and taking herself off and having a bath to make herself feel better. Because being resilient often means trying to think about things which makes us cope better or makes us feel better. It doesn't mean that you have to get a bath every time that you feel that something's going wrong, but think about things that help you personally feel a little bit better about a stressful situation. It might be that you go for a walk, or it might be that you listen to music, and each of us have different ways that we show resilience. Resilience is not immediately bouncing back after something negative has happened in our life. It's not about a dramatic personality change, and it's not about making you think that you have to be invincible or being superwoman. That's not a realistic view of resilience. You're not like a ball that bounces back. Stressful situations happen very often at different points in our life, and we have to try and think of ways in which that we can look after ourselves to make us feel a little bit better. Resilience is something that supports our mental health, and our mental health exists on a scale, and you can see this in the little image on the screen in front of us. On the right hand side, it shows where our mental health is good and that it is excelling. And then in the purple, it shows when we are perhaps in crisis or something is going wrong. The other thing to really remember is that all of us have mental health, and it's a vital part of who we are. I want you to see mental health as being positive and needed, and that people can still be thriving even if they do have a diagnosis of a mental illness such as depression or anxiety. By using tools that help strengthen resilience, they can support themselves and cope with situations that they may feel stressed about. You may come up with a whole lot of different ways in which help you keep a healthy mind. And what I'm going to get you to do is to think about that. What is mental health? Mental health is defined as a state of well-being that enables every individual to realise his or her own potential, to help you cope with the normal stresses of life, and also to help you work productively. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Why is resilience very important? I'd like you to think about your day yesterday. In your workbook that you have been given, you might try to draw a graph to think about how you felt yesterday in your day. Think about in the morning, perhaps when you started your work, lunchtime, around tea time, and how you felt going to bed. Sometimes the way we feel isn't always a straight line or a line that goes up. How would you recommend that someone talks to someone else if they feel that they're a little bit unhappy? Think about also how your mental health is as important as your physical health. Poor physical health can lead to an increased risk of developing mental health problems. Similarly, poor mental health can negatively impact on physical health, leading to an increased risk of some conditions. In some of the other workshops that we will have, we will discuss how thinking a certain way releases hormones into our body that can have an effect, both positive and negative. Where does resilience fit in? Building resilience helps us adapt and respond to situations in ways that support our well-being. Think about new situations that you have come across in the past 2 years. Think about the ways in which you have adapted to learning from home and the stresses and strains that has had on family life. I'm going to read you a little bit about Ali. This student faces a new situation and it stresses him out. What would you recommend that he does? Ali is really stressed about his upcoming school exams. He's never been stressed about them before, but this year it seems serious. Teachers keep commenting on how they are expecting more from him, and he consistently compares himself to his siblings who are really smart. He's not sure how to be resilient. A toolkit suggestion for Ali. He can choose his attitude. This is really important because Ali's attitude influences his feelings, which influences actions. What could an alternative attitude for Ali be? What would his next action be? If we were in school, what I would be getting you to do is to think about that. I would like you to think, what different things can a person do in a day to help them be resilient? I will post this question on Google Classroom and you can think about some answers. Final question for today is, what choices can you make today? Use your workbook to go through some of the things that we've chatted about, and if any of you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.